I started up a sandwich business called Daily Bread, having spent 10 years in the city working for various different companies. It's about time I stopped complaining about doing that and started working for myself. I had an idea, which was to deliver sandwiches to offices. It was quite hard to buy a good sandwich in those days. There was only one good shop in the city, or chain of shops, and I thought if I could deliver a good quality sandwiches to offices, there would be a market there. Critically, for me, it could make money from day one, literally from day one. I worked out that £800 was about the amount that we needed just for the absolute basics, and that actually included a meat slicer, for instance. And I borrowed my mother's car, so that helped a lot as well. So I literally made sandwiches, I think 50 the first day, walked around offices. My luck was whether the receptionist would let me in or not. We then started going into the wholesale market, so we would deliver to a large company. The margins were much lower, but the operations were much easier. And selling was always an issue because I hadn't done enough research and I wasn't very marketing savvy. I thought, how good would it be if we could have our own shop and we'd be our own client? So I started up a separate brand called Sandwich Express. And the idea is that it would need to sell, I think, about 300 sandwiches a day, and it would be off to the races. And it was an absolute disaster. It was a complete shambles. I didn't realise retail was so different from wholesale. After 3 months, I could pull the plug on that. And one of the big lessons I learned in commodities was, which I used to be a commodity broker in the city, was that if you're making a loss, just get out. Don't pursue it. The children were getting older, so we decided to go and live in France for a couple of years, where education was free and good. So we then entered this rather curious phase of our life, which was a fantastic thing looking back, but where my family were living in France, down near the south of France, and I'd go out there for 5 days and then come back and spend 10 days in London and then go out again for 5 days. The culture in our business, I think, is probably the core of what made us work and what made us better than our competitors. And we never compromised on price, and this is something I feel very passionate about. As we got bigger, we had larger and larger clients, and the larger it became, the more the head office would get involved, and they'd start coming and paying us attention and visiting us. And sometimes being quite aggressive in demanding that we reduced our price. And our strategy was always to sell at the margins we needed to make, not to be greedy on them, but to stick to those margins and then not to compromise on them. A desire to be independent and to be my own man and to be free. And therefore, the primary drive has been to make money, because in making money you then have the options and you then have freedom to do what you want. It's not for the spending of that money. That's never been the lure for me. I put a lot into it, mentally and physically, and then decided it's time to move on. So I sold the business in 2008, and I spent a lot of time mentoring and advising small businesses, which I thoroughly enjoy. My view is very much that it's common sense is the primary characteristic that is required. I'm not particularly clever at all, but I do have a bit of common sense. And so I think common sense and drive are the two main characteristics that anybody needs, is to listen. If there's one common characteristic I've seen in people who have not done quite so well in their businesses, and sometimes in their lives, it has been a capacity not to listen. And so seek advice, learn as much as you can, always be open to learning.